This video just infuriates me beyond belief, bro. They're just basically PragerU doing what they do best, is just running propaganda puff pieces for the worst fucking people imaginable. And in this case, they're running an article smearing Palestinians for the sake of the fucking genocidal regime that is the IDF and the government of Israel.
What makes you so certain that joining Hamas, joining the Al-Qassam Brigade, and ultimately turning to violence is the answer here?
If I put the gun down, Israel will not stop killing us. We know the enemy. We tried everything with him. I'm talking about 3 deadly wars.
Now with Hamas, man, they're not the best representatives of the Palestinians, but the thing is, it's really their only representation or only way to fight, viable way to fight back. You know what I mean? And Hamas has done bad things. Israel has done even worse things. I think a week ago, I was reading an article where they'd killed 19 children in just a fucking week, and not in rocket attacks, not in some collateral damage war type shit. It's like just going into the occupied territories and causing terror within the community, murdering children. It's sickening that anybody can defend these actions, you know, and people who are put in these desperate situations perform desperate actions in their bid for freedom, you know, like it's not ideal, it's not pretty, but I do believe that it's understandable, you know? Like, you look back at the history and, like, there were literal Israeli or Jewish terrorist cells within modern-day Israel, Palestine, that would take people hostage and kill people and forcibly evict people from their homes to gain back this quote-unquote Holy Land, man. It's sickening and insane. It's indefensible.
14 years of the siege. We're not talking about 1 or 2 or 3 years. There's no other solutions but this weapon.
Abu Khalid is 25 years old. He's one of thousands who joined Hamas as a teenager and has been active in the group ever since. The US, the European Union, and Israel have designated Hamas as terrorists.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, they basically are terrorists, man. There's groups, parts of that organization that does bad shit, but unfortunately, they're the best hope for Palestine right now. They're the most organized, biggest military group, and Israel-Palestine is kind of a microcosm of kind of what happened with the war on terror with the United States in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, where the big imperialist force causes so much destruction and devastation and shock and awe that the people turn to extreme measures to combat the extreme violence, you know? So nobody wins. Well, I mean, I guess in the case of Israel, they're kind of winning, taking the territory and all that, but you understand what I mean. Like, it's ugly and brutal and dark, and it comes from both sides, but that darkness and brutality comes from the oppressor, not the oppressed.
A lot of the world thinks that you guys are a terrorist organization. Doesn't that affect your credibility?
Yeah. You are saying that the US consider us as a terrorist because we are targeting civilians, but what about the Israelis?
The fact
True,
that
man. Again, 19 children, Palestinian children killed by the IDF, man. If that's not terrorism, I don't know what the hell is.
Down here in tunnels that have been built under civilian areas, you're launching rockets from civilian areas as well. Doesn't that mean that you're endangering Palestinians that you claim to be fighting for?
Whatever happened, if we go down to our tunnels, if we stayed on our homes, if we stay sleeping and dreaming, the Israeli occupation will keep targeting the civilians.
It's sad,
so
man.
You can say that this is the nature of the enemy.
Exactly, man. Then you said whataboutism isn't cool. Yeah, no, I feel you, man. Again, I don't think that Hamas is like an admirable organization. I don't think that a lot of the stuff that they do is okay. All I'm saying is, man, they wouldn't be doing all of this shit if they weren't occupied in the first place. And that insane, aggressive brutality was started by Israel. And I want to make another distinction. I'm not an anti-Semite, obviously. I'm an anti-Zionist. You know, I'm against the government of Israel projecting that brutality on the Palestinians. You know, both sides have done ugly, terrible things, but Israel perpetuates this insanity with their system of apartheid. That's all I'm saying, man, you know?
To my Palestinian brothers and sisters, and to anyone who supports the Palestinian people, I implore you, please do not let Hamas brainwash you into thinking it has achieved anything on our behalf. It hasn't. Not in the Gaza wars of 2021, 2014, 2012, or 2008.
Again, man, like, it's an act of desperation. You know, extremism flourishes in chaos. The Israel brings this upon themselves by denying Palestinians human rights. You keep people caged up and deprived and brutalized for so long. That's all they freaking know, and they operate by your rules. And I think it's just so disgusting that this Palestinian man comes on PragerU to just run defense for Israel, dude. Just disgusting, man. But I'd expect nothing less from the fucking demons at PragerU, man.
Each one of these pointless conflicts has been a catastrophe, costing us dearly in lives and treasure. Hamas is not a social justice movement, and it certainly does not care about the Palestinian people. It is a criminal gang that only cares about increasing its own power.
That sounds a lot like fucking Israel to me, am I right? I mean, the Hamas isn't the one going into Israel and evicting Jews from their homes and claiming those houses as theirs and encroaching upon their territory. That's what Israel's doing, you know? So, again, the projection is freaking real.
Israel is not the main cause of your suffering. Hamas is the
100%. They went to a country that was already occupied and kicked the occupied and kicked the Palestinians out of their own homes, and continue to do so to this day. I think that would probably piss them off. I think murdering their children for no reason would probably piss them off. I think murdering journalists and then invading the funeral procession would cause quite a stir, you know?
Cause. Israel is not your jailer. Hamas is. It was Hamas that led you.
This is like typical just abusive behavior, man. It's like, it's your fault that I'm doing this to you. What kind of sick fucking mindset from a Palestinian man? Jesus Christ, that is just sickening.
Into this most recent disaster. They told you that the Israelis were evicting innocent Palestinians from their homes in the Sheikh Jarrah.
Do I gotta look it up, bro? I'm gonna have to. Literal video evidence, bro. I don't understand.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one.
You see the attitude, bro? Meanwhile, this Palestinian man is throwing his people under the bus to run propaganda for an apartheid regime. How fucking disgusting and soulless do you have to be to operate this way in the world? It's mind-boggling.
Is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
I mean, so there you go, man. Like, this dude's just a fucking liar and a propagandist, man.
Area of East Jerusalem. It is a lie. The people living in those homes weren't tenants. They were squatters.
He's trying to do this bureaucratic legal bullshit, man. Like some of those families have been in those places for thousands of years. I don't think that they have the paperwork from fucking 1,000 years ago. You know, like it's fucking just ridiculous, man. What's up, man? What's your name, Sir Leviticus 69? Nice to see you, bro. Nice to see you. Having a good stream, bro. We're gonna do like probably 2 more videos and call it a day. I usually do like articles in the beginning, and then we do reaction to content, man. Go ahead, give me a follow if you're into shit like that. Usually politics and stuff from a leftist perspective. We'll get into other shit too. If you like want to send me videos and stuff to check out, shit on Twitter, I got you on that, man. Let's get back into it.
They hadn't paid rent for the
Federal abortion ban. Are you talking about the one from Lindsey Graham, the traitor? I don't know why you're calling it a traitor, but yeah, I actually read and analyzed an article, broke down an article about that. I think it was the first article we broke down, man. I mean, I said it while I was covering that. It's not a good look. I mean, they're bleeding supporters from this shit. The vast majority of people do support abortions. That's just a fact of reality, man. And it shows in the elections coming up. It shows in the polls. They're getting wiped out over it, man. It was a stupid move. I have no idea why he did it. But let's get back into this video.
They told you that the Israelis plan to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This too is a lie. The mosque is still there. It will be there tomorrow.
So they didn't go in and try to destroy it, but they did send their fucking stormtroopers in there to intimidate and beat and arrest and harass people, man. So yeah, they didn't blow it up. Oh my God, they're such fucking saints.
Tomorrow. Say what you want about the Israelis. They are not stupid. They know that if they actually
Competent fascists, he's not wrong.
attempt to destroy Al-Aqsa, it would lead to war with every Muslim country. Yes, Hamas take actions and thus look strong next to its rival, the corrupt Fatah party. But the only action it takes is to lead us into chaos. Hamas has no ability.
I mean, you said fuck Lindsey Graham, snake oil salesman bitch, and yes, but when you sit down and ask him, is an abortion and she's vastly, and as you go towards more violent actions. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you, man. Like, my personal opinion, sorry to get sidetracked by this other people, but I do like to respond to the people talking. I think most people do think that after viability, you shouldn't have an abortion, obviously. You know what I mean? And then there's also a good majority of people who think like maybe like 4 or 5 months on, you shouldn't have an abortion either. And I kind of get that. I understand that position, but we live in a complex, difficult world, man. And sometimes it's better for everyone involved if they don't have that child. You know what I mean? Like, you can prevent them from getting that abortion, and then they'll have the child, and they could be victims of abuse because the people didn't want to have that child, or they could grow up in severe poverty and just not live a life that's good and stable, you know. And so people aren't stupid. There's nuance in every situation, but doing this, the insanity of overthrowing Roe v. Wade. You said, I'm about 12 to 15 weeks, and I still believe that if you know anything bad happens, I'm about 12 to 15 weeks, and I still believe that if you know anything bad happens, they should have the ability to afford the baby and remove it from the mother. We're talking like in the case of a medical emergency or the child has miscarried. I just disagree, man. In a perfect world, I feel like I'd agree with you, but we live in a world that's really fucked up, full of pain and suffering, and people having to make hard decisions, man. You know, I don't knock anybody for not feeling like they're able to handle that responsibility. And on top of that, man, it's like, I've been in foster care, bro. They don't give a fuck about you at all. Will your opinion change when they have medical wounds? My opinion will change when we provide the means for a happy existence for every person on Earth. Until then, when there are situations where suffering when the child will have the potential to suffer in the world alive, and when their existence will create a burden that may not be surpassable by the parents, then I believe maybe we can have a conversation about it. But the world is much too complex and fucked up right now to just blanket ban this shit. You just said, well, if all of existence changes, in my opinion, changed. No, I don't think that's an extreme. He said, well, that's existence, man. You just said, well, if all of existence changes, my opinion will change. I think that's a pretty extreme position. It's not about all of existence, man. It's about things that we can actively do right now to limit human suffering, man. We can give people free homes. We can give people the food that they need to eat. As soon as we do those two things, then maybe I'll change my position, man. But as the world stands right now, people need to have this medical procedure to not completely fuck up their lives because of the system that we're in, man. It's not our fault that governments who are supposed to provide for us don't do that, and we have to struggle working for fucking petty fucking lords to you said, yeah, but you said all, good sir. Like, I probably would have been down with the answer of if we can get rid of the majority of human suffering, but the concept of all suffering is inconceivable, at least within our present state and the next. I mean, I'm going to have to disagree with that. I do think that human suffering can be drastically reduced. And I mean, humans will suffer no matter what is going on. That's the state of existence, man. There's spiritual suffering that happens within us all, you know, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with material conditions, but I mean in terms of material conditions that we can actionably change, you know? Yeah, so I really do think we're on the same page, but at this point, I do think that abortion is something that people need and they should have access to. All right, let's get back into this video. I do not know why I like this. Fuck that.
And in fact, no desire to govern. The water isn't safe.
Material things mean nothing. Use your soul guard. Okay, we'll say that technology. I'll get to you guys in 2 seconds. Let me just get through this fucking video, bro. I got you. I'll come back to it. I just want to finish this shit. I know other people are probably like, what the fuck, man? Just start the video.
Safe to drink. The power goes out for hours at a time. Raw sewage washes up on your beaches. The Israelis are not responsible for
They 100% are responsible for this. They control everything that happens within this entire region. And they cut off power on purpose when they go do raids. They don't update that infrastructure on purpose to starve out and drive out the Palestinians so they can have Israel all to themselves, man. That's what it's about. It's as simple as that, man. Literally. All right, it's getting spicy over here. I'm going to have to jump in. What's going on? In my opinion, material things mean nothing, fuse your soul guard. Okay, we'll say that our technology keeps advancing as it has, and it gets down to the point where pretty much humanity can do whatever it wants because the machines can do 90 to 95% of the work. Would that be a good point in which there is no longer an excuse for abortions? Because then you're literally taking the opportunity away from another human being to experience the amazing life of that other human beings die for, or is that too far? Man. So I might get a little bit of flack from our lefty boos on here, but if the world was like a utopia, then I do believe if someone got pregnant past a certain point, like if they're like a fucking zygote, a little clump of cells, then flush that shit. I don't give a fuck. But when they're more developed, I do kind of think like if we live in a world that's hypothetically perfect for the human condition, then I do think that life deserves to go on and experience. But again, we don't live in a perfect world. And that's just my honest opinion, man, you know? Again, if you guys are watching, I do a bunch of politics shit. Thank you for your honest opinion. Of course, man, that's what it's all about over here, bro. I'm not, again, and I said it to another guy who was on earlier. I'm not one of those dudes who likes to fucking debate bro and debate lord everything. I like to have conversations, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to score like fucking points with the left, you know what I mean? I am a leftist, I am a communist, but that doesn't mean that we're a monolith, bro. We all have different opinions. I was going to say, go ahead and give me a follow if you like the shit that I'm doing, man. You know, we do, I break down articles in the first half, then I react to content and just give you my perspective on it. I really appreciate you guys watching. We're halfway through this video on Israel. Let's get back into it.
Failures. Hamas is, and everybody in Gaza knows it. It is Hamas that's...
Yeah, so again, he was just saying that, like, you know, they have terrible sewage that's backed up. Sometimes there's literal fucking sewage floods in the Palestinian regions of Israel. They have rolling blackouts. And again, Israel controls all of that. Their infrastructure is dependent on Israel. And they intentionally make it shitty. They intentionally put as much pressure on the Palestinians as possible so they can reduce their numbers, get them to leave, or though they can't leave, but just keep them in perpetual shock and awe so they can't organize and create better conditions for themselves in a way that is constructive. You know, it's right out of the apartheid, fascist, racist playbook, man. Like, no cap.
Steal the imported cement meant to build houses for you and uses it instead to build a massive network of tunnels from which it hopes to terrorize Israelis. It is...
Again, man, like the way that he paints this is just so disgusting, and I cannot believe that this is a Palestinian man saying this shit, dude. Like, desperate times call for desperate measures, you know, and I'm not saying everything is on the table, but come on, building networks for your organizations to try to root out the oppressor is just the name of the game. What do you think they're gonna do? But if that was your goal, meaning the Israelites' goals, is that how you would do it, or is there another way they can accomplish the goal that you think they have, or they might actually have? I don't really know. So what I think is going on is Israel right now, and again, you might not have been here when I brought this up, but it kind of started out as like a fringe group of Jews who went over to this land that they saw as their like ancient Holy Land, and they were literal terrorists trying to kill as many Palestinians as possible, buy up as much land as possible, drive them out as much as possible, so they could take back that land. And fast forward now, it's just a continuation of that process. But we're in the 21st century where genocide is generally looked at as not okay. So they do what they can in bits and pieces. A perfect example is that I think this happened last year where a rocket hit an apartment in Israel. And it killed, I think, like maybe 2 or 3 people, which is obviously a tragedy. Obviously, I don't want that happening, you know. But they used that as an excuse to rain fucking hellfire on the Palestinians, and in that shock and awe, take more territory. So it's the long game of taking territory, demoralizing the quote-unquote enemy, and maintaining dominance, man. They can't just kill them all now, because in our enlightened quote-unquote liberal world, that would be seen as a no-no. But if you just brutalize them and keep them occupied like they're dogs, then that's okay. Is that how you would do it? I mean, I'm not a fucking fascist freak, you know what I mean? I guess so. I can't really speak to that, you know what I mean, man?
Hamas that makes sure humanitarian aid meant for you is diverted to its favored elites, who then sell it for a profit on the black market. And it is...
I mean, he's not wrong. There's corruption everywhere in every facet of society where people have power. There's going to be people who use that to benefit them. What can I say, man? It doesn't mean that the Israeli occupation of Palestine is legitimate. You know, I mean, there's obviously tons of corruption in the Israeli government, you know, as with every government, especially under the system where we don't have direct democracy. You know, that's why I always am an advocate for direct democracy. You don't want to have people with such a grip on power that they're able to do these insane things, you know, because contrary to popular belief, human beings are inherently good. We do inherently have a sense of community and brotherhood. We just have a small percentage of our human community that is vicious and nefarious and selfish and sociopathic.
That uses you as a human shield, stationing rocket launchers and missile arsenals in your apartments.
1% of all human beings on the planet are psychopaths. Yeah, exactly, man. And I think this system, the system of capitalism, kind of rewards sociopaths and psychopaths because they're the ones who are willing to do whatever it takes to get that leg up and get that control and get that power. So we have a disproportionate amount of mentally unbalanced people operating the levers of power in our society. You know what I mean? And that's not just a problem with capitalism. It's a problem with any system that, like I said, does not have more direct democracy, in my opinion.
Schools and even hospitals. Israel uses rockets to defend its people. Hamas uses people to defend its rockets. As for its war strategy, Hamas doesn't have one. It fires missiles at the most highly populated regions of Israel.
I mean, that's not true at all. You know, I think I'm just gonna stop it right here. He's just saying the same shit over and over again, man. Like, obvious propaganda from the biggest fucking propaganda outlet on YouTube, PragerU, a bunch of right-wing, heartless fucking animals defending the indefensible as usual, man. What can I say?